Cronk falls on it. That will be it. They've defended their title. They are still the champions and the first in a united competition since 92-93. For Farrell, he's over in his debut grand final. Well, what a story for the kid. 10 minutes in the sin bin for the retiree. Here's Cooper, one to beat. It's gone inside of the Roosters to Tedesco. He goes in to score.
On a cold and dark Saturday night at Banquet Stadium, in front of a massive 579 people, our almighty Cox took to the field to take on the top-of-the-table Eels. Well, it had everything. Roosters attacking their line for the first 20, and well, Para, they came to play. But it was a little Keary brilliance with Cordner and throw in the kitchen sink. Ta-da the goose, the Roosters got the 2 points. Hello and welcome to another episode of Roosters Radio, and we've got a big show. We're talking to none other than our captain, Jake Friend. We'll also be speaking to our COO, Jared Johnson, talking all things leadership and some breaking news for fans and members about upcoming game attendances. It's been a big week in Rugby League, Bush. How'd you see it?
Well, Silky, what a week to be a Rooster. What an intro. Great to swap sides. I tell you what, you bring us in beautifully. And I tell you what was another highlight through the week, mate. Social media put out one of the great posts. There was a young man who had dreams of running out for the Roosters, and he did. And that young man turned out to be you. That's right. Cooper Silk in his City Ford tracksuit. They don't make them like they used to, mate. What a post. What a photo. Geez, you were fair head. As you led the Roosters onto the cricket ground, you must have had a great memory. Between Parramatta and that, what a week.
Yeah, Bush. I better give a shout out to David Fitzgerald who sent me that photo. Obviously, there's a Roosters Classic game on Fox earlier this week, and it was the 1987 final where we got beat by the Raiders. But yeah, there's little Tubbsy, little me leading out Guy McGahn. I can see Tony Melrose, Laurie Spooner in the photo, and I tell you what, Bush, when you're a 10-year-old kid and you're leading, the Roosters out onto 50, 60,000 at the SCG, what a great job.
Well, let me just touch on that for a second, Silky. I mean, I realised when I saw that photo what a unique experience it was, and the side that was in that game, it was amazing. Like the names down there, so Huey McGahn as captain. I mean, as Roosters, we spoke to Artie Zineros about his favourite memories last year. It was Henson Park. It was the big flag, stink in the stands. Mate, as a young Roosters ball boy, we forget that you let us out in 87. I mean, you must have just beaten your chest. I mean, how did that feel to run onto the ground? You were the first one out.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
Mate, I just remember that year fondly because we almost made it. Unfortunately, the next few years, and I was a ball boy for about 6 of them, they were all pretty lean times. But that year in particular, 1987, Arthur Beetson was coach, of course. I have some fond memories of just being in the dressing room, listening to Beetson, coaching the team. Jack Gibson would walk in post-match with Nick Politis. Jack would have the big fur coat on, have the bunger hanging out the mouth and walk around to the players. Yeah, like I said, as a kid, as a young boy, to be able to sit with your heroes, it was pretty special.
And what a lot of our fans don't know, mate, is you went on to representative honours with City and New South Wales. So as a ball boy, mate, you achieved everything you possibly could. Didn't quite get there for Australia, but there's a few players out there that have worn the blue of New South Wales, like yourself. And, mate, you should be proud.
Well, one thing we should tell our Roosters fans that joining me in the ball boy ranks during that time was none other than Craig Fields.
And the great Stevie Seabrook, mate, synonymous name with Roosters history and great club. Now, Silky, let's change gears to another highlight. Our boys running out Saturday night. You had the pleasure of being there. We're going to touch on what it felt like to be amongst 567 people, but you cannot deny the performance. Teddy put his body on the line like an Anzac. Jake led from the front. Keary and Cordner magic, as you said in the intro. We threw everything at them. They come at us. Parramatta come to play. They proved that, they're a side, of worthiness. And I tell you what, it was an exciting game. It was what you expect from rugby league. How did you see it?
Well, I've got to say I was lucky enough to attend with my wife and 2 daughters, and I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. Look, one of the names you missed there is Morris ×2. They were absolutely unbelievable on Saturday night. And I want to give another mention to, and we keep mentioning him every week, Daniel Tupu. He's been safe as houses each and every week since the return to the comp. Our back 5 have been exceptional since we've come back to football. And I think the fruits of their labour, those hard carries, early in the sets, and then we get our big boys rolling through the middle, and then we get the 6 agains, and we're scoring points off the back of it. But the game itself, I have to say, one thing that really was noticeable was just the emptiness of the stadium. So there'd be certain times during the game where it was just deathly quiet. And, you could just hear the referee talking, or you could hear the contact of the players. We had this crazy Parramatta fan, and for any of the people who were at the match, you could have heard this bloke. He was loud, mate, and he screamed for, I reckon, 79 minutes. So he was just having a good time and supporting his team, but he was relentless in his support and bagging of the Chooks. But I have to say it was an experience is probably the best way to describe it. My wife, when we drove home, had an interesting comment. She said that she thought you could concentrate more on the game, so you're actually watching the game more intently because you didn't have the distractions. And I have to say I agree with that because you really were engaged in what was going on. So as a spectacle, I guess, is what you'd call it. It was something I was glad to be a part of, put it that way, Bush.
So can you give us your views when Teddy ran across to take on Sivo and put his whole body on the line? It was such a brave effort from Teddy, and 9 times out of 10 he probably would have taken him out, but such a big body. Did you feel that impact? Did you see that? Was that something to behold? That
was actually in front of us. So we was kind of right near where that play took place. You could actually see him brace himself for the contact. Just so happened that Sivo was just too big, too strong. I don't think he knocked himself out. So he took the contact, braced himself for the hit to probably try and support the ball carrier. And I think it was when he hit his head, he knocked himself out. But,
there was on the ground.
Yeah. So, mate, it was brave of him to do that. And look, hopefully he'll be ready and raring to go when we take on the Dragons this week.
I'll tell you what caught my eye, and you're right. Daniel Tupou went down with that cork, it appeared, in that first half. And I watched Coach Robertson in the press conference afterwards. Tupou's performance typifies the mentality that is to be a Rooster. He did not want to leave the field. At one stage, they were about to hold the number up, and then all of a sudden, and they said it, I watched it on commentary on the TV, of course, from our coastal studios up at Shoal Bay. And I've got to tell you, to see Tupou put his hand up and say, no, just let me run it out, and then hear the commentators say that, then watch him play the whole game. That talks about the type of mentality that our Roosters have. It's a siege mentality. It's a never give up. And it was a great game. It was a great effort. That also showed when we were down 10-8, when a bit of Kiri magic turns inside to his favourite man to put across the line corner. I mean, wow, what a night.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about some brave efforts, Joey Manu also got hurt when he went for that high kick. In the first half as well. I think he was a bit ginger around the ribs. And our captain, who we're going to be talking to on tonight's show, Jake Friend, he got a burner, I think, or a stinger in the first half. He was a bit lame with his tackling shoulder. He just kind of shook it off and played the 90 minutes. He had blood running from his nose. But, we just come to expect that from that little champion each and every week, don't we?
Well, Silky, I'm really looking forward to hearing from Friendy. What a huge milestone at 250 games. He's, led us to 2 premierships. He was part of the 13 side, 3 premierships all up, hopefully 1 more to go. He's done everything in the game. And I'll tell you what, when he puts his boots up above his head and puts them up on the mantelpiece, he's left nothing on this dirt. He owes us nothing. And it's nice to hear this week that our very own chairman wants to make him a Rooster for life. And so he should, because what an accolade it would be, and what a great finish to a great career when Jake finally does hang the boots.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Bush. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, the man himself, Jakey Friend. You're on Roosters Radio. We'll be back right after this. Well, Roosters fans, he celebrated a milestone there at Banquet Stadium on Saturday night. It was his 250th game, in fact, over 10,000 tackles for his beloved Roosters. And we've got him on the line, the one and only Jake Friend, our captain, Friendy. Welcome to Roosters Radio for the first time in 2020.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Friendy, I'll kick off, mate. Firstly, congratulations to yourself for such an amazing milestone. And, mate, as a fan favourite out there with what you do, the way you lead, you're known not to use too many words. It's all actions with you. How do you feel? How do you feel at 250 games?
No, I think for myself, probably don't really go into the milestone games and all that as much. I was lucky enough to have mum and dad down, and probably means more to them coming down and watching than to myself at the moment. I'm sure, in 10 or so years when I'm sitting with you fellas having a beer in Bondi, I might reminisce. But at the moment, it was good to sort of notch it up and better to get a win. But, yeah, that's about it for me. It's on to this week now.
And Friendy, you had the opportunity to bring your mum and dad down in this current environment with the bubble and everything else. That must have been really, really special for you. What did they say? How did they feel?
Yeah, mate, it was awesome to get them down here. I had them and a couple other mates. So, I've got to thank the club for, making that happen. And there's plenty of sponsors and, plenty of corporates and members that are, trying to get to the games. And, the Roosters were kind enough to give me a couple of tickets to get my family there.
Friendy, Silky, mate, I suppose on behalf of all Roosters fans, congratulations. Look, there's been a bit of talk in the paper today. Uncle Nick's been quoted as saying that you're going to be a Rooster for life. Have you had any conversations with the great man over the past few days?
No, not yet, but it's good to know. So, obviously I'm off contract and the end of the year, and I don't want to go anywhere. I want to finish my career here and do what I can for the Roosters. And yeah, obviously, good man to have in your corner when you're going into a contract. So
absolutely.
Friendy, on that note, if we are having that beer in Bondi, maybe there might be an opportunity to have a Jake Friend bar. I mean, you've been here a lot longer than Cooper. He only did 2 years and 2 premierships to become a life member. Mate, you've done 250 games. You've had a year out with Toddy Carney. I mean, you've done everything.
Yeah, mate, I've definitely ticked a few boxes and probably ticked a few that I shouldn't have. But no, I love the club and I've grown up here. I said it to the boys pre-game. I spent 17 years, up with my family, and I've spent nearly almost the same with my family at the Roosters. So they played a big part of my life, and yeah, it's something that I hold really dearly. And the people in the Roosters, their opinions, along with my family, are the ones that matter the most to me. So, yeah, I'm really proud to, notch 250, but, I feel like I've got plenty more in me.
Friendy, we told our Roosters fans that we're going to be talking to you on tonight's show, and we've been inundated with questions. But I suppose a lot of them are based around, not only your toughness, but they go back to when you first arrived at the club and a few indiscretions, and you're at the crossroads. Many people have probably heard the rumours and the stories about kind of the misbehaving, going and working in a cafe. But in your own words, mate, in a shortened version, can you just share what you were doing and the mistakes you made and the lessons you learned?
Yeah, I was obviously came down and I was in a lovely family. Linda Baptist took me in and tortured her and her family for a couple of years there. But I'm still friends with them, and my family are still good friends with their family. So I mustn't have been too bad. But yeah, I got in a bit of strife, probably one or two too many beers on a few nights out, and it was. I thought it was inevitable. The Roosters sort of said, we have to sack you. It's just too much now. And I went home for Christmas, I had the opportunity to come back down, but it wouldn't be to play. It would be to work and prove that I wanted to play. And, for me, it was never really an option to have a look elsewhere. It was just, I'll come down. I did the crime, so I'll do the time. And, yeah, probably those 4 months were probably the hardest I'd worked in, my life, I'd say. I was in the cafe, I trained and I'd go to the cafe. I wasn't getting looked after there. I was cutting veggies, peeling veggies, doing dishes. I didn't learn to make a coffee in that cafe, but, I was doing all the real nice jobs out the back, and then training in the afternoon. So, yeah, it was a tough time, but, I was disappointed in myself, and I knew that I had something to give footy-wise, and I wanted to prove that to myself and family, and I suppose the Roosters looked after me.
Mate, it says a lot about you as a person and the character you are and the way you lead our team around. What did you learn about yourself in those 4 months that you've probably shared with your teammates for the best part of a decade?
Probably double-digit beers aren't great for me. I learned a lot. I was lucky enough to have a bunch of local guys, take me under their wing. Joe Thomas, he had a little training crew that I went and trained with them in the mornings. I went and did some jiu-jitsu with the guys up at Bronte. There was some local guys that sort of really looked after me, as well as the club. I had nearly the whole team come down to the cafe one lunch and say g'day and, eat, have some lunch there that I slaved away for. Yeah, and, for me it was just about obviously getting my life back on track and probably giving up the booze for a little while. But, you know, that there's plenty of time to party and you can party and have a good time with your mates. But the day in, day out, you know, of footy, that's been the most enjoyable for my 250 games. You know, you get to go to a building, an office with 30, you know, legends, and you muck around, you train, you get fit and you go and do battle every weekend. And I'm lucky enough to win a couple of comps with plenty of those blokes, and, you know, that's what it's all about. Those are the memories that I'll probably take away more so than any of the, you know, the personal milestone games.
Well, Friendy, you are it's certainly in the spotlight for another personal milestone. We all know that when you had to sit down with your grandkids when you get older and you said, look, I was kept out of an Origin side by a bloke called Cameron Smith, no one's going to argue with that. But he is now retired from, representative football. There's a milestone waiting for you. Is that something that you would like to achieve? And you know, it's so deserved, mate. You know, we've been hexing Cameron Smith to get injured for years as Roosters fans. So you get the start you deserve, but now it's here. Is that something that would be, in your wheelhouse that you'd love?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, no, it's always been, you know, on the list to do as a young Queensland boy. You know, you watch Origin every year up there, and, you know, it's something that I've always wanted to do is run out at Suncorp in the maroon jersey. But, yeah, you know, I'm not too fussed with it. I was lucky enough to be involved with a couple of camps at the start of the year, and, you know, that was really good, and, you know, get some sort of mingle with the boys, you know, chat to Kevy and see what it's all about. So, you know, different format this year, so hopefully I can keep fit and keep playing well and see what happens in November.
Friendy, as a young Queenslander, Silky, what you're going to see this week on Roosters Radio, Silky's dream was to run out for the Roosters. None of us realised it was just as a ball boy. He achieved that. He did a great job. There's a beautiful photo of him in a tracksuit that someone pulled off a screen, and it's amazing for him, and it's a great memory. But what's one of your greatest memories as a child? Like, what, growing up as a young Jake friend, growing up watching Origin, who were your heroes and what's your great memory?
Dan Lockyer was one of my favourites. Probably his intercept to win that game. I can't remember what year it was, but that one, and then probably when Alfie come back from England and scored the try over his head. There two that probably stick out to me the most.
Master coaching that.
Friendy, moving ahead to the comp that we're playing in at the moment, and one of our fans is asking about how you keep hungry. Is it harder to maintain the rage in 2020 compared to, say, 18 into 19?
No, I don't think so. I think we're pretty lucky with Robbo. He sort of sets up every year. He themes it and, you know, makes it different every year. There's no, you know, I suppose you could sort of, we do a lot of the same things, like on the field and training wise, but, you know, it's never the same in there. You're always learning stuff. We're always trying to get better, you know, in all different areas. And, you know, they toss up little bits and pieces to try in games. And, you know, it's pretty, I suppose we're all pretty lucky to, you know, have the coaching stuff we do. And then, you know, that sort of oozes out in the boys. We've got some pretty talented fellas, and, you know, you got the likes of Teddy that continues to get better and better every day. He could probably pull up stumps and be, you know, just go down as a grade already. But, you know, you watch a bloke like him come in and just want to get better every day when he's already at the top of the game. That sort of, it spurs you on, and yeah, we definitely want to go for the three-peat. I think we've got the team, and we probably had a slow start. Break was really good for us, the COVID break. I thought our boys went away, and, you know, we had a training schedule, but you have to do it on your own, and you know, there's a bit of trust there that blokes are getting it done, and I think it's shown that everyone in our squad went away and did what they had to, and we've come back bigger and better.
Friendy, it begs the question. I've asked this of Luke Keary, I've asked this of Coach Trent Robinson, and now of our leader and captain yourself. COVID brought about it many challenges, but what I think it's bringing to rugby league is an opportunity to relook at what we do as a game. There's always question marks over whether you play too much footy. You can answer that as a professional footballer. Is there an opportunity to rest our supreme athletes that you guys are at the start of the year? Is it something we can get to the end of this year and sit down and go, you know what? Wow, that really the quality of football has been unbelievable. I think some sides are playing it out of their skin. Some sides spent some time at Dunkin' Donuts. But you know what? It's a great opportunity to relook at whether we rest our players. Do you agree or do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I think this year it'll be interesting to see later in the season, or even in the next few weeks, if teams start to sort of use their whole roster and give blokes a week off. There's no breaks, there's no origin, there's no buys. So, it'd be interesting to see if, teams start sort of filtering some of the extended squad into teams during the week and giving some stars a week off, or blokes that have played big minutes a week off. I know with us at the Roosters, we'd be comfortable to sort of chuck the boys that we train against every day in and give some young guys a go if that was, what Robbo was thinking. But, definitely for us, there's a trust there that those boys would come in and do a job, and it'll be interesting to see if any clubs sort of follow and try and do that sort of thing.
Mate, just talking about the squad, we mentioned a Robbo last week. Like most teams run around with a solid 17, but it looks like we've got a group of roughly 22 to 25. It seems like there's a fair bit of rotation. Has Robbo spoke about that? Or, I mean, obviously there's Sammy Verrills knocking at your heels. Yep. So is that something discussed at training, a bit of a rotation?
It hasn't really been discussed, but we're pretty well aware as a team that you need more than just 17. The training we do is against those guys a lot of the time, and I suppose you sort of fall to your level of training, and that's probably why we're able to sort of come up with those big plays when we need, is because our squads put it to us during the week, and we've seen all the shapes because of them. So, we're very lucky that, we've got probably 30 players that could probably fill in and not look out of place at all in the NRL.
Got another good fan question here, Friendy. As a man who's made over 10,000 tackles, and averaging 50 odd a game, who's the hardest bloke you've ever had to tackle?
Yeah, Sivo's one, definitely. Vunivalu, actually, from Melbourne. And then always early on in my career, Matty Bowen was one. Not a big guy, but he'd run at that, and that was just scary because you didn't know what way he was going to go. And, he's bouncing around. And bigger guys with footwork, they're tough.
Mate, have you got someone in the Roosters, over the years, in your 250 games that you look back on and think, my God, I'd hate to play against them, that you've played with?
Yeah, Frank Paul was one when we went up against him. I was a bit worried about that when he first left. Fergie actually was another one. When he went to Para, I know what he did for us out of the backfield, and I know how hard he runs, and I know how hard his head is and how hard everything else is. He'd probably be up there in one of those, in the tackling, being the worst person to tackle, actually. Well, his Millen is one of the hardest I've ever come across.
Friendy, just speaking of Para, that performance on Saturday night, as I said earlier, I was lucky enough to be out there. One thing that I did note that was quite different, of the 579 people that were there, was there are moments in the game where it's deadly quiet. Do you hear and feel that on the field, where there's just moments where there's no crowd, it's just you can hear you can just hear everything, and then it goes really still? I was just wondering from a player's perspective if you feel that on the field.
Yeah, you do a little bit. Probably when they kick the goals, probably the eeriest. It's sort of dead silent. Everyone's just sort of standing around waiting for the goal to be kicked and the whistle to go for the kickoff. In the actual run of the game, you're sort of so involved and trying to listen to what's going on with your team that you probably don't notice it as much.
And just on the performance, it was gutsy. It was they threw plenty at you, as we threw at them in the first half. You must have been happy with the way you rolled in the end.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, they're obviously going really well. I thought we started well, and then probably the half bunt was the worst thing for us. We came out a bit slow, and then we were sort of on the back foot for 15, 20 minutes there, and had to make plenty of tackles. But I think turn momentum and come up with some plays and get the game back late in that second half, which is what we're going to have to do against the better teams.
Mate, we're bringing it home now. Just looking forward to this weekend's match. The Dragons, they've won a couple on the trot, but they haven't played anyone of the Roosters' calibre. What are you expecting from them?
Yeah, no, I think obviously been a bit of a up and down year for them and tough start. So I know they'll be, wanting to continue that role. So I'm sure they'll be prepped and ready and want to sort of come and, knock us off. So we've rested up, 6 days this week, and we had the day off today. So I know the boys, a lot of them got in and got some massage done and hit the ocean for the first time in a while. So we'll be ready to go on Friday night.
Mate, just a last final fan question from me, and it's just in relation to post-career. Obviously, you got the great cafe, the High Street Cafe up there in Randwick, but you're also dabbling in a bit of plumbing, so it's really Brasco's in the big time. So, mate, post-career, where are we going to see Friendy? In a pair of stubbies and thongs, in a trap somewhere, or is it bashing up a couple of macchiatos?
Just cream stubbies, I hope, Friendy, and those fat bricky thongs.
As long as I'm not going from plumbing into the cafe, I think the customers will be happy. But I'm not sure. The cafe is ticking along, so that's been good. We've been really lucky. There's plenty of businesses out there that are struggling at the moment, and we're just lucky that we've had the hospital across the road and been able to keep all our staff on. So, and then the plumbing's starting to take off a little bit. So, we'll just see what happens. I've been looking into possibly starting a plumbing apprenticeship and seeing how that goes. So, I'm not too sure where I'll be, but see what happens.
Well, Friendy, you've been a great servant to our club. You've been a great servant to Roosters Radio, mate, and you've done yourself and your family so proud. So we're going to leave it to you. 250 games. I know milestones don't come into account now while you're playing, but they surely will when you look back on this amazing career you've had. Have you got a message for the fans or someone to your family or to the Roosters faithful that you'd like to put out? We'll put the words over to our fearless captain on this great occasion, mate. We want to congratulate you for everything you've done, but final word goes to you.
Obviously, I'm just really proud to, be able to put that jumper on 250 times, and there's plenty more to go, and I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of this year, and having a crack at creating a bit of history with a three-peat. So see how we go.
Well, if Silky and I get our way, mate, the rooftop will be converted into a tattoo parlour cum cafe where plumbers and tradies can hang out, known as the Jake Friend Bar, where you've got to have made at least 5,000 tackles to get in.
Cheers. Well, I'll be up there for sure now. But
mate, good on you.
Up there after a little trip to Barcelona.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Friendy, on behalf of all the fans, mate, congratulations on the milestone. Best of luck this weekend, and we look forward to seeing you over the upcoming weeks as we strive towards a three-peat. You heard it here first. There he is, our captain, Jake Friend. Thanks, Friendy.
Cheers, boys.
Well, Roosters fans, it's been about leadership since the Rugby League started back. We've had Coach Trent Robinson. We have our both captains, Boyd Cordner and Jakey Friend. We've had the Roosters Radio and Radio Hub sponsored Luke Keary right on our show. And now we've got our COO, Jared Johnson. The leadership continues. JJ, are you with us?
Yeah, good evening, gents. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Going to hit you straight up, JJ. Very, very difficult period over the last few months. But now the footy's back. Gee, it's a great time to be a Rooster. But how have you found this from COVID shutdown to beating Parramatta?
Yeah, look, first I think I'd say it's always a good time to be a Rooster. But look, in relation to the COVID and what we've gone through, it's been really challenging because, it affects everybody. So, no matter just front, but from partners to staff to staff's family. So, it's an impact that really stretches far and wide. So, I was listening to the show the other week, and obviously, talk every day with Joe, but, Joe's commentary around it, there is no textbook for this type of scenario. It's not like you go to the manual and you roll through, and it's quickly. When you thought you had a plan or you understood what it was, the dynamics then moved again. So really the main thing we focused on telling was our people, and just making sure, how we're going to get everyone through this from our players to our coach to our staff to our office manager Cal through to everybody. How are we going to get everyone through this time? We've got a really ranging age group of employees, from those who are married with children through to young staff members. So our real focus was how do we get everyone through this, and whenever we do come out of it, that we come out of it together. And that was something we were really united on, from Trent down into the board. We had a board meeting just as end of month, so when it really started to kick in by end of March. So that was a major focus. I think people would have read about in the Telegraph of late how Nick and the board supported the players with food hampers that time, because the players went, also on reduced salaries, but with the COVID restrictions. So we were really mindful that how do we get through that period of time. And when we've even had some players who've been, really kind enough to donate their food hamper to staff members who needed a bit of help throughout that time as well. So really proud about our staff group. We're starting to get more of our staff back to, a full-time employment, but many staff worked, far and above, what their payment allowed, and essentially every staff member was stood down. So it was a challenging time, but our focus was our people and making sure we came out of it at the end all together, because we know that our people is our strength of the Roosters. So that was our real focus.
Well, JJ Silky here, mate. And look, it's not like you've been sitting idle whilst we've been hit under COVID. I did note the other week you've picked up another sponsor, Red Rooster. A lot of synergy there.
It certainly is. It's been a good one, because I think every time you bump into someone, they give you the old, you should go get Red Rooster. They'd love to sponsor. So sometimes it's not as easy as that. But we've been chatting with Red Rooster for a good 3-4 months now, sort of about what we could do and how it could align. We were, unfortunately, didn't have the visible assets they were looking for. So we sort of put a hold on things throughout the COVID period. But coming out the other side, we were able to reshape and restructure some deals and welcome them on board. So that's really pleasing. They're actually a business who have gone what they forecasted throughout this time due to their delivery service. So which is really pleasing. They've had a re-injection of staff as well, and looking to reposition themselves in the quick service restaurant space.
I know my co-host is ecstatic with the news that we secured a partnership with Red Rooster, and hopefully they'll be, frequent in the captain's club in the not too distant future.
I will be sure to get them involved, and maybe they could even, supply something in the studio one night for you guys.
Terrific.
Yeah, you never know. Jared, on that note, Rugby League as a business had a real, turnabout, change in leadership with, the inclusion of Peter V'landys and so much to look at with, a deal. At one stage, it looked like we had no TV deal. The business that is rugby league, the fans see it as 17 or 25 players on the pitch, but behind the scenes, the good back office that Jack Gibson talked about so lovingly, behind the scenes, has the landscape changed for good, and will it be difficult in the future?
It's a good question. I think, to be honest with you, I haven't had a lot of time to think about will it change for good. Like, even through the early stages when, Peter and the commission set the return date, a lot of the staff was still stood down. So, you were working towards this date. You were working towards it. We thought, I wonder if we'll really get there. And probably a fortnight out, you realise that you wanted it. You have to understand what that meant. And then since then, it's a really, it continues to evolve. So, our first game back against South, round 3, that was no crowds, no participation. So, we did some things for our corporate partners around a Zoom and, really focused on our member content. We made sure that we kept our, as much of our marketing and digital team employed as we could for content and keeping our fan base engaged. We didn't want our fan base to drop off. So that was really important. And then we get to Saturday night against the Eels, and we're permitted tickets. So it just continues to evolve. So what does it look like? You'd be naive to think that we return to the same world that we will, but business and the world will still need to progress in some manner, and rugby league will play a big part in that. I think what we also saw throughout this time was how far and wide rugby league stretches. So, it's not just the 17 players that take the field, or the coaches that coach them, or the back-end staff. Think about stadiums and the caterers and the cleaners and, all the attendants that rely on that game for their employment. The camera crews that put it on for Fox, the production guys behind the scenes. So there's a huge workforce that relies on that 80 minutes. So I think that's the biggest thing we learn, and I think we really collectively all galvanised together around it. So I think that was a real positive out of the time.
Speaking of positives, mate, I was lucky to take my family out to the game there on Saturday night at Banquet Stadium. I was 4 of the 579 there in attendance, and I have to say, mate, it was an experience. I was talking to my wife and kids on the drive home about some of the sensory feelings, whereby having no crowd, no cheering, and we all heard that lunatic who was sitting above us screaming for the whole 80 minutes. But it was still an experience in itself just to be in an arena with no people. Yep. Your thoughts on the whole feeling and the setup?
Probably for us who worked the round 2 game against Manly at Leichhardt, that was real lockdown, no fans. So that felt really weird, especially at Leichhardt. So returning, so for myself and most of the staff who returned to work that night, it felt a bit better. Obviously, a fantastic stadium. You're so close to the ground. There was some noise, some atmosphere. So I understand what you're saying, like, coming from tens of thousands into 500, that feels weird. It actually felt a lot better to us. We talked about that on the night, how much better it felt. But it posed a lot of challenges. So whilst you had 500 tickets, which is great, 500 for a whole footy club doesn't go very far at all. And we really wanted to be mindful that it wasn't just corporates, that were able to reward our membership base. But even at those numbers, it's really difficult to do that. So we did a ballot. Our ultimate members got a ticket first, but the rest of the members went into a ballot. Our corporate partners, obviously, like yourselves, were great in understanding in terms of numbers and what we could accommodate. But then it comes with its challenges. So it's not just 500 tickets where you're in 2 rooms or 2 bays or things like that. Because of the social distancing measures required, you're talking about a 20-person suite that can now only accommodate 5 people. The room that yourselves as player partners were in on Saturday night can normally accommodate 200 to 300, I think it is, and we'll permitted 50 in there. So it's really challenging to try and piece together, 2 here, 3 there, 5 there, etc., and still accommodate. And we'll face those challenges when we return to the SCG against the Raiders as well.
Well, mate, let's hop straight into it. The New South Wales government has announced they've given the green light for crowds to return from July 1. We're playing our first home game on the 16th of July. Can you give our fans a bit of an update there, please?
Yes, that's really positive. So we've been working a lot with the Sydney Cricket and Sports Ground Trust about that. And again, that point that I touched on, those numbers are for the whole of stadium. So what we're going to need is, we're going to need more support from our corporate partners and our members in particular, because we're not going to be able to offer every member, their seat in the O'Reilly stand or wherever particularly they're situated normally, because we're going to have to space out to take over the whole venue to get that whole of 10,000 number in. So it'll pose some challenges, but our focus internally is to make sure that our members, our ticketed members, have access to that game, and we can start to get them back, because they've been super supportive. So to be able to get our members back and to get some noise into the SGG when we it's a grand final replay. It's going to be an amazing game, like we saw on Saturday night with the Eels. But to play the Raiders, the grand final replay, it's almost like the perfect welcome back, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. Jared, our club often gets maligned when it comes to crowd and membership, and we've got some really loyal fan base out there at the Roosters. We're up against the mitre South Sydney when it comes to membership. Brisbane Broncos, they're very strong with their membership. What can our members do? Because we've got every single title you could possibly ask. We've got what every club wants. And what we need is to get our members behind it. I'd love to see our membership drive get to those heady heights, and we can finally say to the South Sydney fans and the Broncos and the rest of it that bag us about our crowds and membership, well, we've beaten you at that too. How can we make that happen? What can we do?
Yeah, well, membership is the heartbeat of the club, because as we've seen over this time, no player wants to run out and play in front of nobody. So that's really crucial. But first and foremost, our members have been amazing, and for all the the nonsense that sort of gets thrown around in pubs and Twitter about, the numbers of the Roosters. Our guys come out in force time and time again, and what a lot of the clubs don't have that we encounter is that we've got a really strong and 100-year-long stadium membership in the Sydney Cricket Sports Ground. So that's a big factor when someone already has access to the game. Yeah. So we work really hard with those guys about a non-ticketing piece there, so that they can still support the club financially around that, knowing that they have access. So when you factor in those numbers and what's turning out and attending, our crowd attendance still sits in the top half of the NRL, and our membership has continued to grow. So this year we were on track for 18,500, which was really, really good. We were really pleased with that number, because once I think you break through the 20, it starts to grow a bit quicker than what it does from 15 to 16, 16 to 17. So we're certainly on the right track in terms of people thinking about becoming a member, it is the lifeblood of the club, and really there is no better time to do it. Not only is the club, the team playing fantastically and giving you a great product to watch, but we're now on the journey of only being a couple of years away of the new stadium. So when we move back into that new stadium, we'll be relocating our members first into the best available seat. So that's another great reason to do that. And for those members who've already been with us long standing, they'll be the ones that we allocate back in first. So late 22 means we've only sort of got probably 2 full seasons before we're back in it. So that's a huge exciting piece. Our members would have received some updates today about the stadium redevelopment and a note from a message from Joe. So there's lots and lots of positives, and I think any of our Roosters members and fans who've attended the last Queensland final certainly know we hold in terms of crowd, that's for sure.
No, mate, we're in a great position. As I said on last week to Roosters coach Trevor Robinson, it's a great time to be a Rooster. We want to thank you for your time, mate, proving that behind all the brawn, we've got plenty of brains, and then we've got that amazing board. So well done. Congratulations on your leadership and how you led, I suppose, the back office along with Joe Kelly through these difficult times. And I know that the players also followed some of your diet techniques that you've been using with great success over the period, and then trained it off.
That might just be the lack of corporate lunches, Bush. So hopefully with the return of football, we'll see them pick back up.
Everyone likes a bit of comfort, JJ. There's nothing wrong with that.
I appreciate the support, guys. You certainly make up that context we talk about our really supportive partners and supportive members, and they're the ones who've helped us got through, because if the wheels have fallen off in those 2 categories, we're in a world of hurt, because we are one business across league clubs and a football club. We were five licensed clubs that were completely shut down with no revenue, no games. So if we don't have the support of our partners and our members, we're in real dire straits. So big thanks to all our partners and our members, and we've got now a really exciting last 10 rounds. And I think from what everyone's seen thus far, we've got a football team that everyone should be excited about.
Yeah, and as they say on Roosters Radio, JJ, if you've been listening,
East to win.
Good on you, mate. Good on you, well JJ. See you, mate.
That's a beautiful finish. Thank you, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you. See you guys. Bye.
Well, welcome back to Roosters Radio fans. And Silky, this week we take the St George Dragons on. Not fitting of an Anzac Day game. Dragons look a little bit under strength since they've returned from the COVID break. They've also lost James Graham, who's gone to England, and we might say on behalf of Roosters Radio, good riddance, Hugh Pommy, because you've caused us a few headaches over the years.
Yeah, and look, they're going to struggle. There's no 2 ways about it. They've come off the back of 2 wins, and they've probably been up trying to protect Mary's job, but I think they're up against a formidable team this week in the mighty Roosters, and I think they're going to have their hands full. Bush, I reckon we're going to put a score on them, so I'm going to say we're going to hit the 40s again, 42-2.
Well, Silky, I'm going to predict it's going to be 32-16. Dragons will have a big, strong defence against the Roosters and drop off late in the game. Don't forget, last week I had us at 24-12 and Parramatta missed the kick. Head it here, first on Roosters Radio. Some love for the punters.
Well, that's it for this episode of Roosters Radio. Of course, we'd like to thank and congratulate the one and only Jake Friend, and also our COO, Jared Johnson. That's it for this episode of Roosters Radio. East to win.
They're great to see in action. These boys to show the way. Put the Roosters on the field. They'll show you how to play. Here come the Roosters, the best we've ever seen. The red, white and Roosters, the East and Southern team. East to win, shout out for pride, let everybody know. If you play this football game, beware the Roosters grow. They're great to see in action, these boys to show the way. Put the Roosters on the field, they'll show you how to play. Here come the Roosters, the best we've ever seen. The red, white and Roosters, the Eastern